I think everyone here who watch YouTube is familiar with the series The Amazing Digital Circus. This is an animated series created by Gooseworks and produced by Glitch Productions. The pilot episode was uploaded on October 14, 2023 on Glitch's official YouTube channel. Shortly after its release, it was celebrated by many viewers. Within just 1 month, the series surpassed 100 million views and remains to this day the most watched independent animated pilot on YouTube. In this series, there's a concept called abstraction. Characters in the circus eventually lose their minds entirely and transform into grotesque, barely recognizable beings. This aspect is what gives the series, despite its colorful appearance, a dark undertone. And that's exactly the topic of this video today. I want to share my theories or my thoughts, and because many fans are wondering who might be the next to abstract. Let's start with Pomni. She hasn't been in the circus for very long and had to completely find her footing at the beginning of the first episode. It's immediately clear that she was overwhelmed, which is understandable if you suddenly end up in such a chaotic and surreal moment. Over the course of the following episodes, however, we see her gradually becoming more confident. In later scenes, she appears much calmer and more composed, even though it's clear that she's still struggling internally with the whole situation. Additionally, I feel that many viewers naturally perceive Pomni as the main character in the series. Mostly, we experience the entire series from her perspective. For this reason, I think it would be an extremely bold move to have her undergo abstraction. Next, let's talk about Jax. After the events of episode 6, one might think that he could be a candidate for the next abstraction. Jax is a character who constantly provokes others, teases them, and stands out for his sarcastic humor. This behavior consistently leads to conflicts, which in turn makes many viewers consider him unpredictable. However, we also need to consider that Jax had a friend named Ribbit. Ribbit was a character in the circus before the series event and was abstracted. Many fans speculate that Jax may even have played a role in Ribbit's abstraction. Whether that's true or not, it's still unknown as I make this video. But the fact that so many in the community are talking about this shows how closely Jax could be connected to the whole concept. You could argue that he might eventually face the same fate as his friend. Still, personally, I don't think it will happen anytime soon. Jax is too important for the circus dynamics. He brings tension, chaos, and conflicts that driving the story forward. If he were to be abstracted, I do expect it to be at the very end of the series. Until then, I think Jax is relatively safe from abstraction. Third, let's discuss Ragatha. Right after the episode 5, there was a lot of speculation that she might be the next, since some subtle glitch effects were seen with her. This immediately raised suspicions among viewers. However, I think I once saw a post by Gooseworks, if I find it again, I will include it here, stating that it was just a minor production error and had nothing to do with the story or that it was intentional. Ragatha herself occasionally worries about disappointing Pomni or failing her, but we see that Pomni continues to interact with her normally. For this reason, I find it rather unlikely that Ragatha will be abstracted, at least not anytime soon. Many in the community, however, still consider her one of the most likely candidates. Kinga is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting candidates regarding abstraction. He's been in the circus the longest and have seen everything that can happen there. In the early episodes, he often seems like the one most on the verge of madness and could abstract soon. However, in episode 3 and 6, that Kinga is capable of keeping a remarkably cool head. He repeatedly supports others with his wisdom when they are at their lowest, almost acting like the wise elder of the circus, enduring the madness and holding the group together. Sometimes it feels as if he has almost accepted the chaos around him. Should he ever be abstracted, I could imagine he might even accept it, perhaps even as a way to reunite with his wife. Nevertheless, I consider it very unlikely that he will be the next to abstract, due to his wisdom and the way he supports others in critical moments. Now, Let's move on to Zubel. A post by Gooseworks actually gave me the idea to make this video. Someone asked in the comments who might be abstracted next. Gooseworks replied that it would be someone the audience least expect. For me, it was obviously Zubel. With other characters, we have already seen moments of near madness, but not with Zubel. Aside from the scene with Caine, where she attends a therapy like session and mentioned dissatisfaction with herself. Even then, she didn't appear mad. However, there's another post where Goosework mentioned that Zubel will have several important roles in upcoming episodes, and there she mentions episode 7, 8, and 9. This would essentially rule out her being abstracted, even though initially I thought she was the most likely candidate. The next one is Gangle. In episode 4, we get a deep insight into her emotions. We see her increasingly losing her mind, even convincing herself that no one wants to spend time with her, leaving her feelings isolated and alone. Zubel repeatedly supports her and helps her regain balance, which may have prevented Gangle from completely losing control. But here is the interesting part. What is if Zubel were ever unavailable or unable to help Gangle? That could be the exact moment she becomes vulnerable to abstraction. In my opinion, this is currently the most likely trigger for Gangle being the next one. It's also worth talking about Caine. There are theories that he could be next, particularly at the end of episode 6, where he starts glitching after realizing no one voted for him. We have also seen Caine glitch occasionally throughout the series, suggesting he could be under pressure or unstable. Still, I personally find it very unlikely that Caine will abstract. He is, after all, the circus ringmaster, the one holding the world together. If he were abstracted, the entire system would probably collapse. For this reason, I don't think Gooseworks would remove him from the story in this way. Finally, I want to mention two more characters. First, I want to mention Bubble, where I honestly don't see him being abstracting. He's never shown instability or madness and hasn't had any major moments suggesting it. He doesn't play a particularly central role in the circus, acting more as Kane's sidekick, which seems to suit him fine. For this reason, I completely rule him out as a candidate for abstraction. The next one is Gamigu. He is the first NPC to develop consciousness. I strongly suspect he will return for a bigger role and then could go mad. This could eventually lead to his abstraction, meaning Caine could no longer use him as an NPC. Honestly, this would fit Goosework's statement about it being someone no one expects, and it's highly possible that no one thinks about Gamigu. That brings us to the end of my theory. In summary, I think the main character like Pomni or Kinga are unlikely to abstract, as they are either too important or have already shown that they can handle this situation. The most likely candidates for me right now seems to be Gangle and possibly even Gamigu, if we include him. But this is just my personal opinion, and I'm curious who you think is most likely to abstract. Feel free to leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Who will abstract next? Or do you believe no one will? I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one. And until then, take care.